Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to another episode of An Impromptu Truth. Today I'm here with another one of my co-workers, Mike, whose parents and family members have had some interesting encounters down in the Caribbean area. Mike, you want to take it away? Tell us what they saw?
Well, where do you want to start?
Shadow Man and Sugar King.
Shadow Man. Okay. So, my family hails from Trinidad and Tobago. And I remember, growing up, my father always had some, interest into stories to tell me of things that, he's seen, weird things. My mother as well. Just certain things that happened back then, back in Trinidad, especially, before we entered, the whole technology age and whatnot.
Around what years would you say this might have happened?
See, I never got into specifics into what years, but this is before I was born. Okay. I was born in 1984, so my estimation would be
probably the 70s or something.
Yeah,
like that.
During my father's golden years.
All right.
Those are years where he was heavy in the streets. Those were his times. So I remember one time he was telling me, my father was one of those people. He always had multiple jobs.
Okay.
Especially at that time, and one of his jobs in Trinidad was he worked for the bus depot. So with him working in the bus depot, he got off at work at certain times of the night. And again, this is way back then. If you want to take into account how America is in terms of lights and whatnot. Hell, I remember growing up in the city in the 90s. Even though we have, constant light fixtures, yeah, even in the city, it can still be pretty dim.
Yeah. And
a place like Trinidad, which is kind of quote unquote considered a third world country, or maybe even a second world country at best, during those times it was pitch black.
Yeah. And
even when I was little, I remember there were times back then where it was like
you didn't want to go outside.
There were no street lights were. That was not a thing. So, street lights were, you had them, but not like
they weren't around like they are in the United States.
I remember seeing them, but that was like, hey, street lights in the particular town that you live, and as soon as you even take half a step outside of that town,
darkness falls. Complete darkness.
Just pitch black. And in some places I hear it's still like that. Take that into context. Back in the 70s, just darkness. And I remember in the 80s when I was little, I remember it being pitch black outside. And it most likely would have been even worse 10, 15, 20 years prior to that. I remember one time, he told us a story about, when he was coming home from work, he used to get beat, because he worked for the bus depot.
Yeah.
He used to get, when he's done, he gets a free ride, gets a ride home, because it's along the stop of where he lived. So along the road is coming from the city in Trinidad, which is Port of Spain, and being where he lives, there's a cane field on one side of the road, and that cane field stretches like who knows how long.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the road is basically the road is T-shaped leading into the town that he lives in. On the other side, at the top of the T-shape is the cane field.
Okay.
And that's before, and at the, the T, the T part of the road is leading into town, while the rest of the road is continuing along the bus route. So he gets off, or he gets on the bus, and when he's riding, he sees, or right before he gets off, about before his stop, which is, I'm guessing it's maybe about a block or so before normally he gets off right at the T.
Yeah.
But let's say maybe about a block or two, maybe three, a block's worth of distance to the actual road. He sees something at the side of the bus while the bus stops, while the bus is driving. He sees like something standing outside of the cane field. For whatever reason, he decides to get off of the bus.
Okay.
Right? And that's always been my father's nature. Always been. Even now. Just
curious.
Just
people are running away. He's gonna go towards it and see what's going on.
Yes, I don't know if it's stubbornness or what. I literally had to beg him. My sister had corona last week, and she needed something, and I told him on Friday, I said, hey, whatever she needs, drop it off at her doorstep, get back in the car, and go home. Or, wait from her from the car, let her see, do not interact with her. You're a man in your 70s now. Let's apply some common sense and some restraint. And I literally had to beg him to, he just couldn't understand. He's like, yeah, but I just want to see how she's doing. Yeah, she's fine. She says she's fine. She says she doesn't feel anything. She may not have any taste or, smell or whatnot. But aside from that, she's completely fine. She just has to wait it out. You, on the other hand, don't need to do that.
Yeah.
And I literally went back and forth with him. Literally went back and forth with him for maybe about 10, 15, 20 minutes, begging him, just hey, you can't see how this is,
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, just don't do it. So apply that to a man who's, 40 years younger at that time.
Okay.
Right? The stubbornness is on 1,000.
Yeah.
That, and he's always been that way. He's always been inquisitive, always been, hey, I have to see that. So he said, hey, something just told him to get off of the bus. He said he saw the figure. Something just told him to get off of the bus. So told the bus driver, hey, let me get off the bus, because he had to see what that was standing over there.
Yeah.
Bus driver, nobody else saw it, just him.
Okay.
Right? He gets off of the bus, and all there is, once he gets off the bus, is nothing but moonlight. That's the only thing you have to light anything, it's pitch black.
Okay.
Right? So he sees the figure standing by the cane field, and it's like a shadowy figure, but it's solid and it's tall. Right? So he looks and he squints. He looks forwards and squints, and he's just like, what is that? And mind you, all you have to do, any other person would have either rode the bus, 2 more blocks up or a block up or not. You're supposed to be heading home.
Yeah.
He's facing in the opposite direction of home when you really should be facing home. right? He's looking at the figure and he's like, what is that? So the figure's there facing straight towards him from the bush. So he walks forward. At first he thinks it's like
He starts walking towards it.
he starts walking towards it,
Okay.
right? At first he's just like, hey, is this like what is this? But it's standing still, but facing completely towards him,
Okay.
right?
Like it's got his shoulders squared out.
Yeah, right. So he walks towards to see what it is, and it moves. It sidesteps into the bush, into the cane field.
Okay.
So when he sees it moves, he steps back. He was like, "Oh, like, what the hell is that?"
Okay.
Like, oh, so it moves. So this isn't a statue. This isn't a
somebody in the woods or something.
Something
there.
And here's the thing: in Trinidad, even when I was little, I remember the cane field. The cane field was nowhere to. Nobody goes in the cane field unless you're going there for cane,
Oh yeah.
for sugar cane. And nobody's going for sugar cane at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Nobody. There's scorpions, highly poisonous. There's coral snakes, highly poisonous. Nobody in their right minds
It's gonna be out there after dark.
Yes. Hell, people are even, people will go during the day to probably get what they need or whatnot, if so much. Like, sugarcane is such a thing in abundance over there. People don't really even mess. It's almost like
an afterthought.
It's an afterthought. Like me or you, we'll come down. Oh, I got to get me some sugarcane. And while people do like it down there, it's not. Nobody's going looking for sugarcane at any point in time at 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Right. Keep in mind. I mean, when I'm little, my parents when they were going to get sugarcane, they had me stand outside.
Outside of the cane field?
Like literally where the cane field begins is where they're chopping stuff up. So they're just like, hey, don't stand in there. It's like a marshy land.
Okay.
Right? All kinds of, centipedes, poisonous, not the kind of stuff that we see up here. Like they're poisonous. Coral snake, one of the deadliest snakes in the world. You don't want any part of that. Scorpions, like literally as a child, they're just like, hey, stand right here, we're cutting up some cane and we're bringing it home, and that's maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So much less at that time of the night.
Nobody's gonna be standing out there.
Yeah, nobody's standing out there. So he steps forward and it steps to the side into the sugarcane. So when he sees it move,
now what side? When he's facing it, did it step to his right back into the field?
it stepped. So you see how I'm facing you?
Yes.
Well, same way.
Oh, okay.
So right here, I'm here. Whatever it is right there. So this is the sugarcane field.
Okay.
Right where you're sitting is
So
the sugarcane.
he stepped to your father's right and his
Steps to
left.
my father's left, because this is my left hand. This is on the left hand.
Okay.
Right? So it goes this way. It steps to the side like boom. It steps sideways into the cane field. So when it steps to the side and my father sees it move, it's no longer a still figure. It moves now.
Yeah.
So he takes a step back. And he was like, what the hell am I looking at? And when he takes a step back, it steps back out of the cane field.
So almost like he's trying to get your father to follow it
Yes.
inside the cane.
And that was exactly what he felt. Because they were literally this song and dance. Like, so he steps back, it steps back out. So when it steps back out, he stays still for a second. He steps forward. It steps halfway back into the cane field. One leg in, one leg out.
And it's still looking at him.
And it's still facing him, still looking at him.
Okay.
He steps back, it comes back out. And it's almost like it wanted him,
Like, hey, come follow.
like it's like, come follow me into the cane field. Like it's trying to lure him in there. Like, he literally felt that. Like, he was just like, whatever. It came to a point where he caught himself. I don't know what the situation is. In my mind, part of it is stubbornness, where it's just like you're so inquisitive that you're not even thinking about what you're doing. But then, from the way how he spoke on things, the way how I felt from my interpretation of the way how he spoke on things, it was almost like he was drawn to that situation.
Okay. I get, yeah.
Because nobody else would have gotten off the bus if they saw that. Nobody else would have walked in that direction if they would have seen that. He felt drawn to the point where he said he literally had to. This went along for maybe about 5 or 10 minutes.
So for 5 or 10 minutes, he's sitting there
playing hopscotch with whatever the hell that is.
Shadow figure in the cane field.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock at night.
At 11 o'clock at night. To the point where his brain, he literally had to. He was just like, he just caught himself and was like, what am I doing?
And so when he realized he was interacting with this thing,
yeah,
and he was like, what am I doing? What was it? What did he do after that?
He just stepped back. He was like, you know what? I'm leaving. And walked back.
And nothing else happened after that.
Nothing else happened after that. Never seen that situation again.
Right. That's very interesting. Now, you also had a story about a relative who has a piece of property down there, and they kept hearing banging on the walls.
Father.
That's your father.
My father, his mother's house, which is my grandmother.
Okay.
So, with that story, with that situation, and it's along the same. It's at the same place.
In the same area.
Same area.
Okay.
Same area. Which is interesting. Same area.
See, we've talked about this before. Now I got a question for you. Do you think that shadow figure that was messing with Jack could have been the one banging on that wall?
No. I don't believe so. See, there's a lot. No, I don't think those two things are connected.
Right. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's let the listeners hear what actually happened with your father and the banging on the house.
Okay. So when this is more time among my father's youth. Before my father met my mother and had us, he had children before that. Okay. Before he met my mom, got married and whatnot, he had children before that. So when those kids were young, I remember there was a time he said, so he brought the kids home, or no, he came home from work, whichever job he was working or whatnot, and he's coming, he just comes, and he's staying by his mother's house, and the kids are there. The kids go over there, and his mother watches the kids or whatnot, and he's there. He comes in, and my grandmother's cooking X, Y, and Z, and kids are playing, and da 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 da, and they're just there hanging out. They're talking, and da 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 da, and boom boom boom, and yak yak yak. So it's late at night, and again in Trinidad, even up here in the if you're among Caribbean people, especially Trinidadian people, we don't go to sleep like that, especially when people are just hanging out.
Yeah.
Hanging out, they're cooking, they're frying fish, they're doing all kinds of what have you. So the kids are there, and mind you, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm assuming it wasn't a school day or anything like that. I'm not sure what specific time of the year it was, but basically the kids were up. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, right? And he comes in, and my grandmother's cooking and getting the kids all, it's late. It's time to put the kids are about to go to bed, but even though it's still activity. It's still activity and movement, and everybody's still, you're getting ready to put the kids to bed. Not that you've actually done so.
Yeah.
So my father hears a bang on the door. And he was just like, oh, okay, doesn't really say anything, or doesn't really, just a bang, right? And he's just like, whatever, it's fine. So the next day, same situation, comes home, kids are there, grandmother's cooking, and da 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 da, and yak yak yak, and there's a bang on the door, and he's just like, okay, like, it's like something he heard, but it doesn't necessarily, it's registering, but it's registering very slowly in his brain. Like, it doesn't really, he's not really thinking about that. And then it happened again, like there was a bang on the door when he came home. Same situation. Kids are playing, it's late at night, or kids are up and about, and, my grandmother's cooking, and he was just like, there's a bang, and he says to my grandmother, what is that? And my grandmother doesn't answer him. And he was just like, yo, I'm talking to you. Like, what is that? She doesn't answer him. So then he was just like, yo, you don't hear a bang? Like, there's a bang on the door. It's been going on, And she looks at him, and she was just like, when I put the kids to bed, we'll talk. Right?
Okay.
So they put the kids to bed, and she was just like, okay, this has been happening for a very long time now. I just haven't said anything because I didn't want the kids to get scared, or I didn't want, but this has been going on for a while. I knew about it, but I just didn't say anything because I didn't want anybody to, the kids, just so
scaring the kids.
Scaring the kids or anything like that. So my father was just like, "But what is that?" She was just like, "I don't know." But in Trinidad, there's a lot of, like, especially in those times, in the Caribbean during those times, there's a lot of, every island has their own stories. But there's, and older folk are more in tune with those kind of things. They're more in tune with those kind of things than younger folk are. They'll pick up on things like that. So she was just like, yeah, I didn't want to say anything. But that's been going on for a long time now. So my father's just like, okay. So the next day, mind you, and she says the specific time in which it happens. I can't remember, is it 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something like that? It's either 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I can't remember exactly which time it is. I want to lean 1 o'clock.
Okay.
I want to lean 1 a.m. So she tells my father, it's like, yo, it happens at this time, on the dot, or almost on the dot, for the longest time. So my father was just like, okay. So he gets home next day, sits down, literally pulls up a chair, sits down, and waits. And the kids are in bed, all of that. And this time, it's 1 o'clock, and he's sitting right there. Bang! There's a bang on the door.
Now he's sitting inside the house.
He's sitting inside the house.
Staring at the front door.
Staring at the front door.
Okay.
Bang! He gets up, runs straight to, and mind you, he's sitting right in front of the door. Bang! Gets up, looks outside. Nothing there. Nothing there, nobody, nothing, nobody.
Okay.
And again, this is my father's nature. He didn't get scared, he got mad. That's just how.
I can see that.
He didn't get scared, he got mad. He's one of those people, like, he wasn't afraid, he was mad because he just couldn't
He was more mad because he couldn't figure out what was going on.
That I'm not sure. Knowing him, it might be. Yes, part of it is he's mad because there's a part of it where he's mad because he doesn't know what the answer to that is. But then the next part of it, especially knowing my father, it's almost like a how dare you.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Like nigga, you know where we live. This is my house. This is my place. Yeah, like
banging on my door.
Yeah, like that's his mind frame. Like, yeah, I don't know what this is, but the next part of it is like y'all rolling up, like who, like what the hell, like how dare this happen here now? Like that's how his brain can work sometimes. So he looks outside, nothing. He's like pure, just pitch black again. Not that much lights, just except for the light that's outside. But he's just like, yo, like that's it. So he's just like, okay. All right. So he brings, I don't know. So it continues, and it continued for a couple more days, and he told his best friend, right? So, well, he didn't tell his best friend what actually was going on.
Okay.
He just said, "Yo, come through. We cooking up some food, which is something they do in Trinidad a lot. Something they do a lot in the Caribbean. They just, come through. We cooking food. We frying fish. We doing this. That's what happens a lot. We call it cook up. We cooking up food, and we just here have drinking and eating and just chilling. He doesn't say a word to him about that.
Okay.
So they're sitting down and they talking. He makes sure they sit right in front of the door.
Now they're on inside of the door.
Inside.
Okay.
Right. So they're talking, and 1 o'clock hits. Bang. And it's loud, and it's like bang, and he looks at him, he's like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" And he was just like, "So, I'm I only brought you here just so I know I'm not crazy."
You needed a witness.
Yes, I know. So thank you. I'm not crazy.
Okay.
Right? Nobody here is crazy. You heard it for yourself. So he told him what was going on. He told him after that they spoke, and he told him what was going on with this bang. So with that being said, they kind of like devised a plan. It was just like, all right, so we're gonna sit outside next time, right?
That's to see if anybody's creeping up to the door. Okay.
They're gonna sit outside next time. So it's either the next day or the day after, but basically the next time they link up they sit outside this time. They got food, they got beer, they got whatever it is they have, they did chatting, talking, and they're waiting it out. And they're sitting there, right in front of the door, outside this time. Right in front of the door. Like, see how me and you are sitting? Yep. This is the door right here.
Okay. Got you.
And sitting, talking, boom, 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 boom. Then 1 o'clock hits. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right before it before it gets to 1 o'clock, they stop talking. They just sit down and they're quiet, waiting to see what. 1 o'clock hits. Nothing. 1:15 hits. Nothing. 1:30 hits. Nothing. 2 o'clock hits. Nothing. I think it was around maybe 2 o'clock, 2:30, somewhere around there. When they got tired of waiting, they looked at each other. It was just like, yo, I don't know what to say. Bang!
So when they weren't paying attention,
as soon as they looked at each other to speak.
So it was waiting for them to be distracted?
Yeah, almost distracted. Bang! And then they look at each other. He was just like, yo, I don't know what that is. And he was just like, I don't know what that is either. They just came to that conclusion. It's just like, yo, And when they say they don't know what that is, they know that it's not. Again, people during those times, they still had more ties to
the old ways.
To like old. And when I say old ways, it's just like they know that is like me. I have a lot. Like my brain works in a more. My brain works slightly more scientifically, or not even slightly. It's I have to not that I don't think that that there are things that are unexplainable, or that I'm not that I don't believe in supernatural elements and things like that. But for me, I have to exhaust every thought process or every I have to be able to explain everything away. If I'm out of those explanations and they still don't hold water,
that's when you look towards the fantastic.
That's when I tend to look towards the fantastic. But with them, it was just like with them, they're less likely to give certain situations an excuse. They're just like, okay, like, you know what, we tested it, just so we know we ain't like, you know what, we know when they said they don't know what this is, it's a confirmation of there's something not right going on.
Okay. Now another, it was you that was telling me the story about the skeleton, the horse clapping.
The hooves or the
yeah. Can you get into that?
So this is my mother. This is more my mother's. This is my mother's experience. And it's weird, but my mother's side of the family, I wouldn't say. While I would say that my father experienced certain things that was just like head scratching, and it might have even been, I don't know if it's been more plentiful or not, but my mother's experiences, I could always tell that they felt like those experiences were either targeted at them or felt like it had like more malice,
malicious intent towards it.
Yeah, just because of the lives that they led. And again, that could just be their feeling. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but there's times where jealousy and stuff like that can cause people to engage in certain practices that will target you. I've seen it even up here. I've seen people do. I haven't seen anything happen to it, but I've seen certain people that have been, especially from like Caribbean culture, where it's just like, hey, they don't necessarily like this person, necessarily like that person. So let me pray to this piece of porcelain, or let me cut off this chicken head, or whatever kind of, whatever kind of nonsense goes on. But again, it's the intent. So my mother, I remember I remember she was telling me there was a time where it was late. It was late at night, and again, see, in Trinidad, people do go to bed pretty early. In Trinidad, there are those that go to bed early, and then there are those that don't go to bed early. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but there.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so in Trinidad, there are people that will literally go to bed at like 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. Right, 6, 7, 8 o'clock is bedtime. Then there's those that, they're up until the crack of dawn, And then there's just some certain nights where even those people that will stay up, they stay up. My mom was, their side of the family was to go to bed kind of early side. But again, there's times where you just want to sit out on your porch in the middle of the night, or 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night or whatnot, and talk to your family. You're sitting on the porch or whatnot. And this time, I don't believe anybody. Nobody was sitting on the porch, but they were inside. And they were inside sitting down, and for whatever reason, it was my mother. Was it my mom or was it my aunt? I believe, yeah. But basically, it was my mother, my two aunts, and my grandmother. They lived together. And they lived in my grandparents' house. And they were sitting there. They were sitting in the living room, and from the living room, there's the living room, there's the door, and the door is outside. The door leads to outside, which is the porch, and then there's a big stone gate, right? There's a big stone, fencing around my grandparents' house, and then there's the gate, right? So they were sitting down, and they're talking or whatnot, and from what I understand, they felt like they just felt something. Felt like
something was off.
Like something was off.
Okay.
For no reason. It's just a feeling. And they heard like hooves outside. And they're hearing it. It was coming from all the way up the street. They heard hooves, almost like a horse, like somebody's riding a big horse down the street. Yeah. There's not really any horses in Trinidad. Like I said, it's an old town place, but it's not that old. There's not oxen and cattle just walking down the street. That's not how it works. There's buses and cars and stuff like that. You may see little of them depending on where you live, and where they live is a country area. But it's not that type of. There's no livestock. Aside from chickens in the people's yards, or there's no that doesn't work that way, it does. That's just not the situation. So they hear like a horse. They literally hear galloping, tuk, 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 like literally hear it. But it's like galloping in silence all at the same time. It's like you hear it. Like a horse has a rhythm.
Yeah.
If somebody's riding a horse, there's a sound, there's a
click-clop.
Yeah.
Click-clop. Yeah.
Like they're hearing that, but they don't hear. They hear that, and they hear chains.
Chains.
Yeah. Like a clanging. Like it's like tut, 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 tut. And they hear it, and it's coming fast. And as soon as it gets to their house, they hear it slow down. So when they do that, they look. So they look through the gate to see, because the gate is when you see, if somebody's passing by, you see who's passing by.
Yeah.
So it stops, and they hear it. Whatever it is, they hear it breathing. They look at the gate to see if anything passed by, and they stay there and keep looking, and they hear it breathing on one side of the gate where the stone fencing is.
Yeah.
The stone fencing, so you can't see at the sides of the gate. You can only see through the gate.
Yeah.
So one side here, this is the gates. The gate is a gap.
Okay.
Stone fence, stone wall. So they hear it on one side of the wall when it comes up to them, and they hear it breathing, and then all of a sudden they now hear it galloping on the other side of the wall.
Going away from the house.
Going away from the house. But it stopped and paused.
Stopped and paused right at that gate.
Right at that gate.
That's tricky.
Right at that gate.
So that was a pretty interesting encounter your mother had. Now I remember you mentioned talking to me about duppies. Is that what it's called?
Well, W is a Jamaican term.
Okay.
But they all
It's all the same thing, just different.
more
terms?
just different variation. Yeah. But what we have is called Jumbi,
Okay.
which is like like boogeyman, like Duppy, Jumbi. What we have something called Sukunya.
Okay.
So again, these are more on my mother's side. Again, my father's aware of those situations, or those stories or whatnot, and I believe he's had maybe slight experiences, but nothing that couldn't be written off. And nothing that I really remember, because it was more something that he's like, that could kind of be written off.
Yeah.
But my mother's side of the family, when it came to those kind of things, and mind you, my mom was not someone who dealt in those kind of things or anything like that, but she lived in an area where people were very envious and very malicious. People will go as far as, people will feel a way, they'll poison your dog just because you had a shiny suit on. It's because you bought a new suit. They'll poison your dog.
That's real petty right there.
That's real. The pettiness is real. Right? They'll think that you have, they may think, just from them assuming that you have money can draw,
Negative ire.
Can draw negative ire. For whatever reason. Whether it be money or what have you, or they think that you carry yourself in a way that hey, you choose to probably do things a certain way, which and they probably look at it as you probably think that you're better than them. That's not the case, but you just said, hey, I'd rather not, I'd rather make this life choice or that life choice or what have you.
Yeah.
So the term sukunya is a person, or from my understanding, so a sukunya is a person or being or whatnot who prays to either the devil or whatever kind of dark entity they pray to, or something to that extent. And it's usually almost always in exchange for something.
Okay.
Whether it be riches or or a good job or something. Or even envy. Envy is for, hey, I want to get at this person, so they'll pray to the devil or whatever dark being it is they're praying to or serving or whatever. And at night, that person will take off their skin and put it in a pot or some kind of pot thing or whatnot. Will take off their skin and they will become a ball of energy, like a ball of flying energy or whatnot.
Okay.
And they will go into whoever's home that they're targeting and suck their blood. For whatever reason.
Strange sound.
Right. So I remember there was a situation with my aunt where she said but they'll suck your blood while you're asleep.
Okay.
So I remember my aunt was saying that there was a situation in which she felt someone, or not even so, she saw a dark figure come in the room when she was, when they were sleeping or whatnot. And she couldn't get up.
Like a sleep paralysis?
Sleep paralysis, yes, on many occasions, but with this situation being different, being that they know what they know, she was just like, yes, it could be that. Now, at that time, they all believed like sleep paralysis was some kind of demonic situation. When the outlier was in the morning. The thing is with the sukunya is that when they suck your blood, they suck certain parts of you, specific parts of you. So it might be your leg or like your thigh or your arm or something to that extent. So she was like, she's up, but she sees this dark figure comes in the room. Right? Sees the dark figure come in the room and she can't move. And she said when she wakes up in the morning, she's just like, oh, she knew it was real, but at the same time, she was ready to write it off as a dream.
Okay.
And she knew that she almost knew that it was a specific person. Like she knew because her and that person, there's a person in the neighborhood or whatnot that she didn't get along, that the family does not.
So she felt like that person definitely sent that being there.
Either sent that person or was that person. And in the morning when she woke up, she had a big red suck spot on her leg. From basically going from like her knee to her thigh.
What?
Like a big, yeah.
Huh. Did she say how long that bruise lasted?
I didn't ask. I never asked.
Oh. It's creepy as hell. Well, Mike, thank you. I appreciate you telling me your stories. Listen, go get us some more from your dad.
All
right.
I'll ask for some more.
I truly, man, thank you. I appreciate it. And this has been another episode of An Impromptu Truth. Thank you to my guest, Mike, and you guys have a good one. See you later.
Shut up!